This is going to be a mid-season assessment for top quarterbacks as of week 8. Before we even get started on the list,
Maybe a little surprising,
oh, definitely.
honestly.
There's going to be a few names on here that you may not expect, which we have explanations as to why. We're going to have a few honorable mentions because we did not include players that have been injured for either majority of the season or if they got season-ending injuries. It just kind of doesn't really count in a way because you can't continue the rest of the season. Some of those mentions
Right.
are such as like Big Ben and Tony Romo. These guys did not make the list because of injuries, and we can see what they do at the end of the season when they come back. Well, I mean, Ben Roethlisberger is back, but Tony
Right.
Romo might steal
Right.
somebody's spot when he comes back, depending on how everything goes. Two more that
Right.
is not on the list, but getting an honorable mention. Russell Wilson is not in our top 10. Sorry, guys, but uh, I think he has 9 touchdowns and 6 interceptions, and not a great quarterback rating right now this season. He has a really
Down
bad
here.
down.
Down here right now.
Well, I mean,
For the whole team.
when we looked at his stats, honestly, Wilson, what I said is that he just has okay stats.
Right.
Nothing great, nothing that's flashy or that's really outstanding. He's just okay.
He's
And
just not good enough to be in the top 10.
yeah, the other one, despite this last game, is Peyton Manning. Mostly because this guy has 7 touchdowns and 11 interceptions and a really bad quarterback rating. Uh, not putting up the same stats as he used to, and definitely not putting up the same stats as everybody who's in our top 10.
Hey, if there's anybody that I think could play spoiler for these top 10 guys, it's probably Peyton Manning. I mean, if he gets it, if last week was any indicator of what is in the future, he'll make it. He'll make
Yeah.
the cut at the end of the season rankings for sure.
Oh, definitely. Do you want to lead us off at who is our number
Well,
10?
another we left another big name off
Oh, yeah?
that you're not mentioning. Andrew Luck
Oh, you're
did not make our top
right.
10.
You're
Yeah,
right.
and a lot of that's because he's been fighting injuries, been making not the greatest decisions. And similar, I guess it's a little bit similar to Wilson in that his stats aren't really bad when you consider he has a lot of interceptions. I think he has the most interceptions, but he's still in a lot of touchdowns still, a lot of yards.
He has 13 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. So
Right,
he's like barely scraping it,
right.
above.
He's another guy that if they get their season together, he could potentially get in the top 10 too. But he's just not. He's not making the cut right now. He needs to heal up a little bit. I think. I think
Yeah.
that's the major problem with him right now.
It's not going to help that he's playing Denver right away
No, oh no.
after the midseason.
He's probably not going to be getting on track this week.
No.
So
So,
that's sad.
anyways, let's start off. Who is our number 10?
Blake Bortles.
Yep. Might be a
Insert
shocker.
highlight reel.
Too bad we do not have any rights to NFL footage.
Right.
Blake Bortles, he's throwing a lot of touchdowns. He has 15 touchdowns this year already. Uh, he has a decent quarterback rating. He actually has a pretty decent completion percentage. Maybe not winning as many games as 15 touchdowns may allow, but he's playing damn good football, and he did good enough to make number 10.
And tell him why he's only at number 10.
He's only at number 10 because this was our hardest decision. These guys
Yes.
are nearly identical, statistically wise, but Cam Newton is number 9.
Right.
And the reason why Cam is slightly beating him is Cam Newton plays different football than Blake Bortles. And overall, Cam Newton has 11 passing touchdowns, but he ran in for 4. So equal 15. I think they both have 6 or 8 interceptions. It's one of those two. I can't quite remember on the
The
top of my head.
tiebreaker was the interceptions. 'Cause, Bortles has 8. Definitely has 8.
Mm-hmm. Cam
So
has
the
6.
tiebreaker, at least for me, it was
Right.
that interception.
And I believe Cam has a few more yards passing, but not by it's less than 100 that he has over Blake Bortles. So they're pretty damn close. I think overall too is Cam Newton's winning games clearly, and Blake Bortles isn't always. But
Right.
they're
The other tiebreaker.
right. They're pretty comparable statistically wise, not in playability wise. I mean, like I said, they're two completely different quarterbacks when they play, but overall, they're almost identical in the stats. So, you know what? This might be another shocker to a few people, but who is number 8?
Derek Carr, who is playing. The Raiders are a really under the radar team.
Yeah,
He's an under the radar quality quarterback right now.
yeah,
I mean, we measured his stats up with the next guy that he ultimately lost out to, and it was just like another hair splitter. Really,
right.
he
I
was how many touchdowns on the year?
I think he's also at 15.
Yeah,
Or 13. It's really close. He has a lot of touchdowns, and he doesn't make too many mistakes. He has less interceptions than Cam and Blake Bortles. Uh, he has actually a better completion rating than Cam and Bortles. So that's why he kind of took over the top. I think he's leading the NFL for um, most yards after the catch, after when he passes it, which is crazy.
right.
And all
That
well,
just shows, yeah, his receivers are that's Amari Cooper mostly, I'm
it
guessing.
is Amari Cooper because I mean in our wide receiver thing, Amari Cooper has that stat. He has the most uh,
Right.
receiving
Yeah,
after the catch. That's crazy. That's
I
absolutely
said
crazy.
I was guessing, but I knew I wasn't guessing. But yeah, um, and he barely lost out to our guy that barely missed out on the top five.
He
And
did.
this one's probably not a surprise, I don't think, because
No.
I think putting it's Eli. I really don't think people expected a top five ranking for Eli,
Yeah.
but a top six. I mean, look at the shootout. I know they lost to the Saints, but when he's on, he's on. He's had some bad games too, though, is the problem.
Yeah.
And he's been Eli. I mean, he's been up and down, hot and cold. But when he's been hot this year, he's been really hot. He's been
Yeah.
really
He definitely has, and he's a lot of passing yards. Again, not making too many mistakes. His interceptions are actually pretty low right now this year, and that's kind of helped and contributed a lot. But despite all that, a person who has better stats than Eli in pretty much every single aspect is Andy Dalton's number 6.
right. Oh, I miscounted here. But yeah, I was thinking 6, 7. Yeah, yeah. Andy Dalton is 6, and team's undefeated. Andy Dalton. I mentioned Derek Carr having an underrated year. People aren't really talking about the Bengals too much, considering they're undefeated.
Yeah.
And after beating Pittsburgh this past week, I really think we should be.
Oh well, if you if you listen to our biggest Cincy fan who watches the show, he's been saying that since like week 3. So
Right.
and he's been right this whole time that
Right.
people have been kind of shitting on the Bengals from the beginning, and I don't think anybody has any right to it anymore. There's no way that Bengals have proven in every aspect that they're not overrated by any means. Andy
I think
Dalton's probably
they're
playing.
still getting overshadowed by the Broncos and the Patriots, though, because the Patriots blew out Miami and the Broncos blew out Green Bay. So, despite the fact that they beat Pittsburgh, no one's talking about them still.
Yeah.
No one's
Well,
talking about Andy Dalton, but maybe that's good. There doesn't seem to be a whole hell of a lot of pressure on them, and
yeah.
so I think that that's good for them. They can just focus on playing football and not worry about the fact that they're, undefeated and all the records, all this crap. Just go out
Exactly.
there and play.
That's an excellent point, and you know what? Andy Dalton is probably playing the best football of his entire career so far, and it's
Yeah,
it
I
definitely
think
got
so.
him a number 6 slot.
Right.
I'm gonna give
Barely
you
missed out.
I'm gonna give you the honors of giving us who's number 5 because
My personal favorite here, a hero of mine. Wonder who I'm talking about. It sure as hell ain't Tom Brady. Um, Drew Brees, and he really slipped into he we call like our elite four, our traditional elite four and everything.
yeah,
And he was maybe not even in the top 10 until a couple weeks ago. He'd been hurt for a week, and the Saints as a whole, led by Brees, really emerged the last couple weeks,
yeah.
and especially with the last game after the 7 touchdowns. Maybe that's like giving us a little bit of bias here, but the dude just had a 7 touchdown game.
No one's gonna even get that for the rest of the year, most likely.
Right,
I mean, I'm not saying
right,
it's impossible, but most likely it's not gonna happen again the rest of the season.
right. And he looked as good as he ever did.
Yeah,
If he plays like that, he could start challenging for even higher spot as the season goes.
right. And
So Breeze at number 5, I think is pretty solid.
he's putting up a lot of yards. So and
Yeah,
with missing one game, he's still putting up a lot of yards, which he always does. And he's putting up a lot of touchdowns, which he always does. And on top of that, I mean, yeah, last week definitely did contribute quite a bit, or it made a big leap.
I
But
think he was making up for that game he missed, so his
in a
stats
way,
could still be good.
but and then it's not just last week though. It's pretty much been like the last 3 weeks that the Saints have been on a big upswing. Maybe arguably the last 4 weeks they've been in a big upswing, and that's definitely been helping Breeze out a lot to climb his way back to at least number 5.
Well, they started 0-3, and since then they've gone 4-1. So
Yeah,
they're definitely on the uphill swing right now. Hopefully, at least from my perspective, hopefully it keeps on going. So, and I'll throw the floor to you for
Ooh.
number 4.
Now we can go to my fave. Number 4 is Aaron Rodgers. Rodgers, yeah, he had a terrible game and everything, and
Right.
that definitely didn't help his stats. If he would have had actually like just a really good game or a decent game, he might be even higher, possibly.
Right. Right.
Probably not actually,
The
but
biggest knock on him to me is his total
yeah,
yardage.
1,500 yards, which honestly isn't really that bad comparatively to a lot of the other quarterbacks. But if you want to talk about him being MVP status or our Elite Four status, that's pretty low too.
Right.
Now, what's not low is he also has 15 touchdowns, 2 interceptions on the season.
Right.
Which is that really a surprise from Aaron Rodgers? Like really? I mean, honestly, throwing 2 interceptions in one game is a surprise for Aaron Rodgers, but he still has 2 total for the season.
And the fact that it happened at Lambeau, I think, is the only surprise.
Yeah, that too.
You know.
Exactly. And on top of that, I overall he's played great. Maybe not as explosive as he has in maybe in previous years, but overall he's winning games, or he was, I guess, and he's still carrying a team, and he's still making impressive stats overall. He still, I think, has one of the highest completion ratings in the NFL right now. If not the highest, but I mean it's definitely up there as a top 10
I
completion
think it was
percentage.
maybe I don't want to get. I think it was 67 when I looked at it.
Okay, so maybe more average
So, well,
than
that's still pretty. That's pretty high. The stats are a little bit higher this year than they usually are, which is I think the all-time record is like a 70 something that Brees set
yeah,
a few years ago, like a low set, like maybe 71 or something. So like a 2/3 completion percentage is a pretty damn good completion percentage.
right. And I guess that's kind of all I really have to say, other than we'll see how he goes. Maybe he'll climb up further. I mean, he's not going to be in the top 5 for most yards this year. I just don't see it happening. But looking back, he never really was. You know?
Right, his big thing is was team wins,
Yeah,
and his touchdown to interception ratio is usually the best in the league.
yeah. It always
Wow.
has been. It still is.
I mean, that's why he won the MVP.
hmm
So, number 3,
Number 3.
poor old Philip Rivers.
Yeah. This might be shocking to some people because it's almost easy to shoe him in as number 1 because he does have the most passing yards, but he also has a lot of touchdowns. He also has a lot of interceptions. He also isn't winning games.
He reminds me. Now the team record doesn't so much, but the way he's having to play reminds me of Stafford during his 5,000-yard season.
Yeah.
He's just having to throw the ball and put it up, put it up, put it up because they don't have a run game.
Now the difference is, Stafford is actually in the same boat. I think both of them
Yeah,
have the most passing play calls out of any other team in the NFL, and which is ironic because they both don't have great records. I mean, San Diego's is better, but not really by much.
no. And I'm going to make a prediction here. I don't think Philip Rivers is going to drop out of the top 10, but when the season's over, he just lost his best wide receiver for the season.
Yeah,
He's got nowhere to go but down.
yeah.
I mean, I think I don't know if he's going to hold this top 5 spot come once we're doing this after week 17. Uh, it doesn't, the outlook for him doesn't look good. I know he's personally had great stats, but it's because he's having to put the ball up so much and the team's not winning. And it's like, are you just going to exhaust your quarterback's arm every game in vain?
I
You know,
guess.
I don't know. And he doesn't have his playmaker anymore. It does not look good for the Chargers or
No.
Philip Rivers right now.
I think Philip Rivers is still going to have a great season. I mean,
Right, like
he
I said,
might
I
might
doubt he
even
drops out of the top 10.
yeah. I mean, he might even complete this entire season with most passing yards. But as you just said, it could be all in vain. They're not going to make the playoffs with it.
After losing Keenan Allen, I'm not so sure if he will set the passing yard record anymore. It's going to be hard. He's going to have to figure something out.
Well, we have
We'll
two
see.
players that are kind of nipping on his toes anyway. The next one, Carson Palmer, as number 2.
Right.
Palmer?
Playing the best football of his life.
Yeah, it's almost like identical with Andy Dalton. He's playing the best football we've seen from him. I mean, we
Right.
saw this from Palmer last year, to be honest. He just unfortunately got hurt. And now that he's staying healthy,
The
it's
difference is he's 35.
yeah,
He's
yeah,
playing the best football of his life at 35. He finally, whatever it was that he didn't have, like I'm not like trying to be snarky or anything, but he like finally figured it out. Like whatever it was that was like blocking him from being great. I don't know if it was teams, whatever.
I think it was
he got
teams.
it. Yeah,
To
he
be, I
got
mean,
it.
it wasn't even too long ago that he was on the Raiders when the Raiders were terrible. When you can't be on the right team at the right time, sometimes that really brings down your stats, and it doesn't matter who you are.
And he's got Larry Fitzgerald, who it turns out it looks like both of these guys were still good. They just didn't have anybody that they
Yeah.
could work with.
Well, we've been saying that about Larry Fitzgerald for years. That's like, oh man, he's such a great wide receiver. It's unfortunate they don't have a quarterback. Well, now they do,
Yeah.
and it's ironic that both of them are, later in their years for their
And,
career.
and an interesting side note, I remember last year before the season started, they asked Fitzgerald, they were kind of hinting at retirement and stuff and asking him how he thought he was going to do. And he goes, you know what? This is the first time I have a quarterback in years. I'm going to do damn good. Like, I'm going to do great. And everyone was kind of like, Carson Palmer? Okay. But then it started off good and then obviously got cut short. But then this season, we've shown his prediction to be right.
Yeah.
Like, it is just that. He needed a quarterback. He needed someone that could throw him the ball. And, wow. Carson Palmer at number 2. Who would have thought that?
Right. I think that may be one of the most shocking. I mean, it doesn't look shocking when you look at how this entire season is gone, and especially everybody who plays fantasy football out there. That's not shocking because he's consistently put up really good numbers every single week. But if you look at just the NFL as a whole, like the past 5 years, never would have saw Carson Palmer and this good. Yeah, like not even. Okay, let's put it this way. I never in my entire life would have expected for Carson Palmer and Peyton Manning to be playing the same season, and Carson Palmer being on a top 10 list and Peyton Manning not making it.
We just put him on a top 10 list higher than Drew Brees and Aaron Rodgers, too.
Right.
So, I'm just saying. So, number 1 should be no surprise.
The
Right?
no shocker of the entire list. It's Tom Brady.
Right. He's playing maybe the best football of his career, too, honestly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
one thing I didn't look up is what statistics look like by week 8 when they went 16-0 compared to when they're
Right.
8-0 this season, but it's got to be pretty damn close.
It's called. I think is that the season that he set like through 50 touchdowns. I think it is.
Yeah,
So he's probably a little bit behind that pace, but it's like maybe a second best season then.
yeah,
So, which I mean, and he's 37, so that's impressive too. The difference is with Tom Brady, you've come to expect excellence every season,
yeah.
so it's like not a shocker, I guess.
And you know what's really helped him contribute? Gronk and Edelman has been stayed healthy this entire year, or so far this year.
That's true.
No,
That's true.
that hasn't. So when you got those two guys healthy through the entire season, he's gonna look amazing. And that
But
not like really knocking Brady because he's gonna look really good no matter who's in there, but that's definitely spiking up his stats quite a bit.
if you remember last season, because Gronk was out for quite a few games,
Yeah,
I think he actually fell down to like 12th for a while, and I'm not sure where he finished at for the year, but it wasn't even in the top five.
yeah,
So, and a lot of that had to do with injuries and stuff they were dealing with last year. Of course, they got hot late in the season, but or got healthy, I guess, late in the season. But
yeah,
the Patriots are healthy so far. They're motivated, and they look like the team to beat. Denver's just kind of nipping at their heels with that defense, but Tom Brady, if anyone can handle that defense, Tom Brady. So
yeah.
there you go, people.
So that is definitely our top 10 list right here. If you want to add your own comments, if you agree, disagree, anything else, I'd love to hear what you have to say and your contributions. You can follow us on Facebook and Twitter. We'll definitely be back next week for week 9 and all of our other late calls. So thanks for listening to our top 10. I don't know why I said like that.